Good morning. Wonderful to be here. Thanks to Drianne Benner for letting me share a stage with so many incredible women impacting investing. My name is Shelly Porges. I'm the co-founder, as I said, and managing partner of the $1 Billion Fund for Women. And this morning I want to ask you to imagine if you had developed a technique for building a human organ out of a patient's own stem cell. And imagine if, and you may know that millions of people die every year from needing a organ transplant and don't get it for many reasons. Sometimes they're not even on the organ transplant lists. So then imagine if after developing this technique, you had actually gotten regulatory approval. And imagine if you'd also patented the techniques involved in doing that. Then imagine if you mobilized clinics and hospitals who were eager to adopt this technique within their realm. And then imagine if you'd also lined up doctors and other medical experts and technicians that would require to deliver and execute this technique. Then imagine if you started a company to help fund and scale such an opportunity. And then imagine if you still couldn't get funded. This is exactly what happened to 27-year-old Eleni Antoniadou, who, after doing all of what I just described, pitched the Cartier Women's Initiative Awards, the largest women's business plan competition in the world, with over $1 million of non-dilutive grants every year. And when I asked her, as I was the president of the North American jury, which I did for over a decade, when I asked her, why are you doing this? I mean, she was so dedicated and so impressive. And I imagine that she must have had a grandparent who passed away for lack of having been able to access a donor, an organ that they needed. And instead she said to me, when I was 11, I got liver cancer. And I almost didn't make it. And ever since, I've been obsessed with organs. Can you imagine? Is this not the kind of entrepreneur you want to invest in? I know it, I do, and I'm an investor. I could tell you, I could stand up here and tell you dozens of stories. Of course I won't. Drianne, I won't. But it's these kinds of stories and these kinds of entrepreneurs that we have seen over the years, not just at Cartier, but in so many of the other things that I've been involved in my various careers as a corporate executive, then as a serial entrepreneur, then as an investor, and even in the work that I did in government at the State Department, where I was the lead, where I was the head of the Global Entrepreneurship Program, where we grew it to almost 150 countries. We're seeing women innovating all over the world. And they're innovating across all sectors. And they're not getting the support that would allow us all, men, women, children, to benefit, both to improve our lives and to save our lives in many cases. That's why we founded the $1 Billion Fund for Women. Because it's not just about the money. Of course, it is about the money, and that is the way that we change the world, by deploying the capital that we can have and do have control of. But it's really about how we need to manage our world. So the $1 Billion Fund for Women, let me tell you our story. A little over a year ago, I had an opportunity to present at the World Bank meetings in Bali. I got the opportunity when I discovered that they were going to be hosting a blended finance forum around the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And my friend who was leading this said to me, Shelly, we're going to host this event, this forum, and we got a project partner for every single, for every one of the SDGs. I said, so exciting. I said, what's number 5, gender equality? Who's your project partner for number 5? And she said, oh, it's the only one we don't have a project partner for. I said, you're kidding. You cannot exclude inclusion. That is the whole point, right? Isn't that the point? And in turn, she said, no, we couldn't find one that's at the scale and doing the kind of thing that would match the other kinds of projects. I said, well, send me the parameters. I know a bunch of people. maybe I can shop it around, figure out, how we can, fill that blank. Now, meanwhile, by the time she did that, by the time she sent me the parameters, we were less than 2.5 months away from the World Bank meetings. And then I started thinking, I had been working with a number of venture funds to help them gender diversify their deal flows, those of them who said, we can't find the women. And I'm using my voice like that for a reason, because we weren't hearing women saying that much. It was really, the people who had the power to move the dollars. And so working with them to do that, and I started thinking about it and thinking, wow, the World Bank meeting is filled with an audience full of mostly institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds, endowments, foundations, and some high net worth individuals as well, but really more on the institutional than the private side, I would say. And I thought, what if I could entice a number of funds to pledge to do more for women, to pledge a dollar amount that they would invest in a real time? Because like you, I don't want to wait till 115 years from now, because I'm twice as old as you are, and that's not going to happen in my lifetime. We got to have change now, because we're missing these innovations now. And so I thought, what if I could get some of them, at least, to pledge to do more? Is that a crazy idea? And so the more I thought about it, the more I got obsessed with it. Then I actually recruited a co-founder, Sarah Chen, who's amazing. 30 under 30 Forbes. Check her out. And I called my friend back. I said, listen, I have got this cockamamie idea, but we got to do it. And it's called the $1 Billion Fund for Women. And we're less than 2.5 months away now from the meetings, but we will do our best to get at least the first 100 million pledged from an actual, truly global consortium of venture funds. So not just, based in DC, not just based in DC, or even not just based in the US, but really a truly global consortium, such that we meet your parameters for the World Bank. And she said, I love it, do it. And I get off the phone, and Sarah says to me, are you crazy? You just told the World Bank we're coming with $100 million pledge. What are you thinking? And I said, I know, it is kind of crazy, isn't it? She said, yeah, but Shelly, what if we don't do that? I said, well, if we have 80, it'll be 80 million more than women get. If we have 50, it'll be 50 million more than women get. She says, Shelly, what if it's 0? And I said, we'll call in sick. No, seriously. I had it in my mind that we could get some. It may not have been 100, but we didn't know what we could do. And just for those of you, I think most of you probably know this, given that you're in the space, women get, we all know about the gender pay gap being 80%. Well, the gender venture funding gap is 2% for women-only teams, and only another 10% for any company that has even one woman founder on the founding team, meaning a total of 12%. Meaning 88% of venture capital today goes to male-only founded teams. Think about that. So I thought, if we could even, and that equates to what women get is about 2.3 billion. So if we could add $1 billion in real time through 2020, what kind of an impact we could have, right? Even if it took us longer, which is what we thought it would do. So anyway, we got started dialing for dollars. Gets to October 11th, 2018, last year, just a little over a year ago. And we got to the World Bank meetings, and we had over $460 million pledged by 2018, by that time. And trust me, no one was more surprised than we were. And it is another example of be bold, get out there, do it, just do it. And we could have failed. And what's the downside of failure? No change. And you start and you try the next thing. So be bold, take the action, put yourself out there. I honestly, I'm a grandma. I have 4 grandsons. I figured I have nothing to lose here. We have to do this. We have to make these changes. I have a happy announcement to make here. We have announced it before, so it's not the first time. In June of this year, we announced that we had surpassed the $1 billion mark for funds that will be invested into women-founded companies through 2020. And these funds, as you've heard before, I think in many ways, these funds are investing across the spectrum. First of all, we have over 80 funds now in over 25 countries and 5 regions of the world. And these funds are investing in everything from ag tech, clean tech, fintech, med tech, life sciences, blockchain, cannabis, cyber. I could go on, silver tech. Virtually every sector that is being invested in today, we have funds investing in them, and they are investing in women in those sectors. So we're not talking about fashion and beauty, nothing wrong with that. Those are good too. But we are talking about things that matter, things that will change our world, things that AI robotics, things that will matter to our futures. And we have a, femtech fund that's addressing reproductive health on the West Coast. So we are now about to launch 2.0. What's 2.0? Because everybody, of course, once you tell them, you've surpassed the billion. I've gotten responses from like, well, are you going to 2 billion? Are you going to 10 billion? No, we are going beyond the billion. Because we know that the sky's the limit now. We are not limiting ourselves with any numbers. And we will soon be launching. Give us about 2 weeks and you will see beyond the billion. Beyond the billion is not just new cohorts of funds that will pledge to invest into women-founded companies, plus our data on how our funds are doing at this sort of halfway mark, if you will, for their investments, which PS we don't have the full survey completed yet, but on an anecdotal basis, I can share with you they're doing very well. We're somewhere in the 30 to 35% invested range, and even though we're halfway through, recognize that some of those funds even just pledged within the last 4 months, so they are not halfway through their round yet. So we're quite confident, also because we went beyond the billion, that we will net out to at least $1 billion by the end of 2020. But beyond that, what's very critical is something we also heard on this first panel, which is many of these fund managers are women too. They are also entrepreneurs, they also seek funding. So beyond the billion's focus, primary focus now will be drawing in LP capital into those funds that will pledge to women, so that we can create a virtuous cycle and a woman-friendly sub-ecosystem within venture in the larger women, generally unfriendly ecosystem, and really advance our world. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention.